If there is going to be peace in this land, it will be when men and women of truth come to the conference and be allowed to speak their portion. And so I'd like to bring before the holy congregation of the Holy Jerusalem Writers Conference 2011, HaMashiach ben Ami.
קודם כל, ענה לתת לי להרים קולי כשופר. שכל אחד ואחד ידעו שאלו דברי יו הבורא. ושאנו עבדיו שבחרו דרך אמונתו וממנה, לא נסור ימינו או שמאלה, כי אנו פה כלעולם חסדו. סלע. שבו בבקשה. All of the elders, another very blessed opportunity for me on behalf of your sons and daughters to acknowledge your greatness and to assure you that we understand the price that has been paid and that we are indebted unto you and determined to not allow your oppressors to write the last chapter of your history. And again, I say unto all of the elders that you're going to be very, very pleased with what we're going to write. To all of you, headmaster and dean, School of the Prophets, administrative staff, faculty, saints, friends, guests, may the Holy One of Israel continue to give us reason to come together on many sacred occasions, to be heard, and to have the blessed opportunity to listen. I'm thankful for the opportunity to be here with you and to behold your countenances and to be inspired by your presence. I'm going to be very, very brief. I always say that. And to give an overview, to share some direction with all of the participants of this great theme for this season's Holy Jerusalem Writers Conference, New Visions and Voices of Peace. I want to begin by reading from page 140, Resurrection, and the first paragraph. Is peace an impossible dream? Or is the problem your preconceived notion of who you want to bring to peace? Is salvation impossible to attain? Or is it being deferred by preconceived idea of who you have internalized that you want to save you. The great majority envision salvation only when they hear the name Jesus. And if he does not come, and whoever will come if they are not called by that name, they will hear no other message of salvation. And regretfully, that being the case, they won't be saved. Please note the use of the terms learn, teach, and knowledge throughout the content of this dissertation. I want to go to the book of Jeremiah, the 10th chapter, verses 1 and 2. Verse 2, I'm only going to read the first sentence. And it reads on this wise: Hear ye the words which Yah speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith Yah, learn. Learn not the way of the heathen, or translated into contemporary language, learn not the way of the ungodly. This term again, learn. Now, I've used this scriptural reference, but there are many other references throughout the words of the prophets that convey the same message. And Yah says that we should not come under the influence. We should not learn the way of the ungodly. I sincerely believe there is a much more in-depth understanding of this scriptural reference that we must realize. Possibly the ramifications of such intellectual influence is what casts the dark shadow over all people and places. Perhaps wars are instituted and sustained through learning, through institutions. Perhaps wars are instituted and learned, sustained through institutions. And as long as the student applies what they have been taught, there will be wars. And those institutions, those students under that influence, as long as they matriculate through those institutions and thereafter apply what they have been taught, there will be wars. There will be no peace. Maybe that's one of the reasons that Yah has instructed us to learn not the ways of the ungodly. In these institutions, they are taught social language. The use of this language usually precedes battlefield war. We could refer to this language as, and you've heard the term before, a war of words. Right. A war of words, which through proper use and media exposure will lead to expanded war in designated geographical locations, such as tyrant, despot, dictator, terrorist, blood diamonds, crimes against humanity. All of this language is institutionalized, and the students are taught how to react, the opinions to form when they hear this language. Cult. There's an opinion. Directly connected to those terms, we also find the power to define. For example, Iraq. Hundreds of thousands killed or maimed, millions displaced. Vietnam, Agent Orange. Yemen, an American ally. Nicaragua, Cuba. The crimes perpetrated by Lyndon Johnson and Robert McNamara, President Bush and Colin Powell, were not crimes against humanity. Hundreds of thousands. And thereafter it was revealed that it was all a lie. It was all unnecessary. It was all a lie. Hundreds of thousands were killed and maimed. Millions displaced. But it was not a crime against humanity. Vietnam, Lyndon Johnson, Robert McNamara. Hundreds of thousands killed. Lands that were poisoned almost perpetually. No crimes against humanity. We continue with institutionalized language. We find adversarial opposition. 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 Do not let them in. Do not let them win. Adversarial opposition. Do not let them in. Do not let them win. Why there has to be new voices and visions for peace. Liberals, conservatives, communists, and socialists. Communists are usually too conformist, while not allowing enough opposition. Socialists are too content with less, not good advocates of consumerism. Conservatives supposedly advocate values and liberals prefer none. Thereafter we put 22,000 religions into the pot, all with different beliefs, 22,000 religions with relative righteousness. Righteousness is only defined according to your religion. So you have 22 definitions of what is right. So we can understand that out of that, there can be no peace. First of all, with 22,000 positions, there cannot even be a point of reference to begin the negotiations. 22,000. So all through these institutions, we're learning this language. And this language is preparing us for something. Preparing us to fight, to win, not let others win. So now, we begin to understand that all of this begins in the institutions. Then there's environmental language. The trees, forests, are dying off. This is likened unto just natural death. The trees, the forests, they're dying off. As if they've gotten old and they're just dying off. The rivers, lakes, oceans, and seas are polluted, indicating a mere rectifiable oversight of progress. The rivers, lakes, oceans, and seas, they're just being polluted. And this will be corrected. This is simply the fruit of progress. In addition, we have soil erosion. The ozone is merely disappearing and the air also is polluted. And finally, we have the language of social health and welfare, such as equal opportunity. All are created equal. Freedom of choice. Lands of opportunities. This undoubtedly grooms the students for terms like rich and poor. Because not all of those children were born equal, but they've been groomed. Land of opportunity. They just happened to have gotten an opportunity and became the rich. And you just have not come forth with the opportunity yet to become rich. So they've been groomed through the institutions. Rich and poor, poverty, lifestyle diseases, very stylish lifestyle diseases, and natural death. Again, trees, forests just dying off, people just dying off, and we find this term, this euphemism, natural death. It is obvious that the prophets, messengers of Yah, are conveying to us a significant message. The social idea of the ungodly is the major contributing factor to all wars and destruction. I want to repeat that. It is obvious that the prophets, messengers of Yah, are conveying to us a very significant message. Learn not the ways of the ungodly. This is deeper than just an immediate effect, a neighborhood influence. The Creator in His infinite wisdom has saw something much more vast. And He's referencing something, greater than that as to why He has forewarned us. Learn not the ways of the ungodly. It is something about that social system, social order of the ungodly. It is obvious as to what it is that the prophets, messengers of Yah, are conveying to us a significant message. The social idea of the ungodly. The social idea of the ungodly is the major contributing factor to all wars and destruction. The major contributing factor is the social idea of the ungodly. And it is for that reason that we were forewarned. Learn not the ways of the ungodly. Why? Because their social system keeps you bound in a permanent state of transgression, sin. Because their social system keeps you bound within a permanent state of transgression, sin. What does that mean? They simply keep you breaking the rules. They simply keep you breaking the rules. And as long as you break the rules, there's going to be a negative reaction. They simply keep you breaking the rules. So, if we are to solve the problems of humanity, the problems of destruction, we must heed the warning of Yah Yisrael, because it is those influences. Is that the reason why the Creator has promised the coming of a kingdom? The coming of a kingdom, another social order, different language, different results. Stop breaking the rules and start abiding by the rules. The hospitals are not full of sick and diseased people because they have no religions or because they're not advocates of religion. The hospitals are full. The wars are taking place because they're breaking the rules. Individuals are not getting sick because they don't have religion. And individuals are not getting sick because they don't adhere to their religion. They are getting sick because they are breaking the rules. So, what does the social idea of the ungodly keep us doing? Breaking the rules. Breaking the rules. The students have been wired by the institutions to perpetuate war. The students, prior to the battlefield, prior to the terrain, the students have been wired to perpetuate war because they've learned opposition, adversarial opposition. They've learned these things. These things have been institutionalized in their minds. The coming of a new vision has brought new voices for peace. I refer to the prophet Isaiah as the prophet of peace. No other prophet in the scriptures makes mention of peace on more occasions than the prophet Isaiah. But before posing the question as to the first portion, the language, before posing the question, how much of what the ungodly tell us can we believe? How much of, then how do we find the basis to negotiate peace? How much of what they are telling us can we believe? Or maybe I should ask, how much of the above mentioned that I've already conveyed to you do you really understand? Believe. Their social idea leaves you baffled. You really can't understand it. All of this is originating, the roots are deep in these social orders. Now, mind you, the prophet, in the book of Deuteronomy, the 12th chapter and the 8th verse, one of the most profound statements made by Moses to our fathers when he brought them out of the land of Egypt. And he stated unto them, ye shall not do after the things that we do here this day. Every man whatsoever is right. Every man whatsoever is right in his own eyes. So what was he addressing? They had come out of ancient Egypt. In ancient Egypt also, they had a pantheon of gods. And as Moses brought the fathers out, and they were all making references to various different gods. And Moses forewarned them, says that ye cannot do as you are doing today. Every man what is right in his own eyes. Every man has his own version of what is right. And he was undoubtedly referring to religionists. Because all religious orders, righteousness is simply relative to their religion. And we find the righteous relativism, relative righteousness. But the fathers were told that everybody can't do what is right. Not wrong. They have their own personal conceptualizations of what is right. What is right. And Moses said to the fathers, you cannot do after the thing that you do here this day. every man whatsoever is right in his own eyes. So he knew that there would have to be conformity, a form of conformity, that everyone there could not exist in the house of Israel relative righteousness. Revelation, the 12th chapter and the 9th verse. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Deception. Well, I think that we can relatively easy trace deception back to the social systems of the ungodly. The social systems of the ungodly. Deception. So what can we believe that they're telling us? Really, when you go into those vast, attractive-looking supermarkets with tens of thousands of products, Safeway, and then they've got all of that, and then they've got a health food store. And you're trying to understand now, health food store, Safeway, and well, what kind of store is this? If this is a health food store, what are they selling? I mean, that once we probably thought that all of them were health food stores. I had no idea that this was a health food store and this was not. So what can we believe really when you go in? The problem becomes you go into the store and you're under so much stress just trying to select a meal. 500 brands of bread. 300 brands of crackers. 50 brands of peanut butter. And they're all saying, this is the best. Nobody is telling you that this is not as good for that you can believe them. Now, can you imagine why the Creator says that don't learn their ways? Don't learn their ways. You really don't know what to buy. Learn not the ways of the ungodly. Deception. Let us further consider the words of Jeremiah the prophet. How long shall the land mourn, and herbs of the field wither, for the wickedness of them that dwell therein? The beasts are consumed, and the birds, because they said, he shall not see our last end. Many pastures have destroyed my vineyard. They have trodden my portion under foot. They have made my pleasant portion a desolate wilderness. They have made it desolate, and being desolate, it mourneth unto me. The whole land is desolate, because no man layeth it to heart to think. The land is mourning. The birds are suffering. The herbs are withering. It says because of the wickedness. Why? Because they're all under the influence of the idea of the ungodly. This is the end result of the application of that knowledge. Everything suffers. Everything is suffering. Learn not the ways of the ungodly. I think that was a very, very profound message